The Buffalo Bills have full control of the AFC East, and they are now flying to Indianapolis to take on Joe Flacco and the Colts, who are trying to get back in the AFC South division race. My name's Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this Week 10 matchup between the Buffalo Bills and Indianapolis Colts. But before I get into that, Ryan and I, we can't believe that we have the option to say this, but we're about 200 subscribers away from 5,000 for the channel. Thanks to all the new members that has joined this season so far. So if you haven't already, let's see if we can hit that goal and hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think will win this game and why. So, Ryan, Buffalo Bills had a great victory over the Miami Dolphins, who are getting healthier as well. So I think it was a much better kind of overall test to see how good Buffalo is compared to them when they played Miami in week 2, because that team's totally different from when they played then. So that was a great victory, especially too knowing Tyler Bass. He can, as a Georgia Southern alum yourself, can kick. I think it was like a 61-yarder as well, with a couple extra yards to spare to win the game. They're flying to Indianapolis, who have made the move to Joe Flacco, and pretty sure reports have come out now he's going to be the quarterback for the rest of the season, as well as long as he can stay healthy. I know a lot of Colts fans were probably very disappointed with the performance that they had on Sunday Night Football against Minnesota, because they've seen Anthony Richardson stats like that throughout the entire season. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Colts bounce back from that. It was a very weird game in Indianapolis, and we'll kind of get into it. But I want to throw it over to you. You're the Patriots fan. You're the AFC East guy. And also, too, you're actually with family in Indianapolis watching the game. What did you think of the Colts move, and what do you think the Colts have to do to kind of pull off this upset here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at this matchup historically, and one of the things that the Colts have done well in this matchup is run the football. Jonathan Taylor, I remember a few years ago, ran for about 200-plus yards against this defense, and that, to me, I think if this team is going to win, I think it's going to come on the shoulders of Jonathan Taylor, and then the pass game second. The big thing for me that was lacking with the transition was you hoped that the substitution of the threat of explosive plays from Anthony Richardson for the consistency of Joe Flacco to just be able to hit those underneath throws would kind of shine through. And that really wasn't the case in his first start for the Colts. Well, I guess he had started games for the Colts while Anthony Richardson was injured, but this, to me, I think is a really good opportunity for him to go out, have a really good, consistent performance. They can hopefully start to feed Jonathan Taylor and get him going behind this offensive line. And to me, I think that's how they've won these matchups in the past, is they've literally run away with it before. So, yeah. And if you're the Bills, I mean, I think you just come in. They've done a really good job of keeping their games in manageable situations this year. This offense isn't as explosive as it has been in the past with the loss of Stephon Diggs. They did go out and get Amari Cooper, but he was not healthy for the Dolphins game. So I do think that getting this offense in more of a rhythm is going to be really important. And then with that also comes let James Cook get after the passer as well on the defensive side of the ball. Joe Flacco is not nearly as mobile as Anthony Richardson, obviously, and so he can definitely be pressured in the pocket, and he doesn't have that threat to extend plays like Anthony Richardson does.
Okay, I started chuckling there for a second. You said James Cook, then you went straight to get pressure on Joe Flacco. Well, you let James Cook.
Let James Cook, yeah.
I see what you did there, and I agree with you too. Like, this Colts defense is probably one of the worst ones in the league, and so it's funny. Like, initially in the first half, like we were watching the game, and it's like, oh, this Colts defense is actually playing pretty well. But then I also kind of realized too, I think both Sam Darnold and Joe Flacco and the Colts offense were like trying to see who can give the other team the game in the first half, and they were just like kind of like complimentary turnovers, just like, here you go, here's the ball, why don't you go try and score? And they're like, oh, no, thank you. And that was kind of the whole first half. But in the second half, though, I mean, the Vikings put up 21 points all in the second half, and Darnold had very efficient, actually, 28 for 34, 290 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And so then on top of that, too, Aaron Jones and Cam Akers started to take off in the second half. So it's like, I think, too, I say that because I think the Bills will play much more consistently than the Vikings did on Sunday night. And I think that's going to spell a lot of trouble for this Colts defense. And on the flip side, too, I agree with you that I think the Colts need to get back to kind of their older ways, like with Jonathan Taylor, and run the ball. However, that being said, Bills have a probably one of the better front sevens in the league, and honestly, overall just a good defense in general.
Yeah.
Thanks to a lot of people that commented in our Miami Buffalo preview matchup, and kind of point out even the secondary as well, and how good the secondary has been. Taylor Rapp, and then also who's the other guy? I just blanking on Benford as well, and how well they've been playing in the secondary. There's a couple of outlier games, like for example, the Buffalo Bills defense is ranked 17th overall in total yards allowed, 16th in passing, and 15th in rushing yards allowed. But if you go look at their two losses at Baltimore and at Houston, they gave up 271 yards rushing to Derrick Henry. A third of that was on the first play of Baltimore's game. And then the next day, they gave up 331 passing yards to C.J. Stroud. Other than that, they've been a pretty hard-nosed defense the entire season. They kind of have those two big outlier games. A lot of times, rushing-wise, they have 4 games where they've given up less than 95 yards rushing, and several games under 200 yards passing, or just barely over 200 yards passing. So I think it's going to be a tough game for this Colts offense to bounce back, but they are going to be at home, so it's going to be maybe a little more comfortable environment because they're going to need to find a way to be more balanced because especially, too, when you're making that move to Joe Flacco, as you mentioned earlier, that's why you're doing it. Like, you want to have more 215-yard passing with less turnovers and more consistency, and then like 120 yards rushing overall with Jonathan Taylor and company. Instead of these like 140-yard passing games, but 70 of that comes on one explosive play, from Anthony Richardson to A.D. Mitchell or Alec Pierce deep.
Yeah.
So I think it'll take some time. I wonder if maybe it's just a little bit awkward with everything going on right now. And there's another point I want to kind of wrap up here with that, but totally separate, more kind of talking about the Colts offseason. But I think it's going to be tough for the Colts to go up against this Bills defense. And at the same time, too, I think James will cook against them, and the entire offense. I think for Buffalo, I think they're just going to be much more running down your throat. I have Josh Allen in my dynasty league, and I've even kind of like been wondering, do I want to start him just because a fear it's going to be like the Dallas game last year at Buffalo.
He's only going to throw it like 15 times. They're just going to run it.
They're just going to run it for 500 yards or something like that against this team. So it's going to be interesting to watch. But one final sorry, I want to confirm this. The GM for Indianapolis, Chris Ballard. I'm very curious about, with this move now to Joe Flacco, it seems like he's going to be the quarterback for the rest of the season by the reports that I've seen. I'm curious then kind of what that means then, because it was Shane Steichen, he was the new head coach coming in. How long has he been the GM?
This is his second year. Oh, sorry. This is Steichen's second year as a head coach.
Yeah, no, Steichen's 10 years as a head coach.
He's been there for a while.
Let me find this here real quick. Seems like I feel like he's been there for a long time. Of course, I got to pay for that.
He's been with the Colts since 2016.
So he's been there for 8 years. It's just kind of one of those decisions. If this doesn't pan out, and if Steichen doesn't like working with Richardson, and it wasn't really his choice, and it could go back to this was Chris Ballard's choice to go with his quarterback, and Steichen wants to go a different direction. Very curious kind of what this means overall then kind of for the direction of Indianapolis with their quarterback position. This could also be something similar to Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick when Tua got drafted and he just needed some more time and he had this veteran quarterback that he can go and learn from. Could exactly be that. But it's just Colts are definitely well within the playoff hunt. So maybe that's why they're going to Joe Flacco. But at the same time, though, too, it also could be like everything happened after Anthony Richardson tapped out against the Texans, because he was tired. So very just kind of just curious, something I'm going to be monitoring a lot of things, something that a lot of Colts fans are going to be monitoring as well as we go into the offseason of like what are going to be some of the offseason decisions that will be made, especially if the Colts don't make the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting. I think kind of taking that point, segueing it to then like the Colts playoffs hope, I think this game's not going to help out their playoff hopes at all. I'm going to go with Buffalo in this one. And I feel like a pretty dominant faction. think this was a good win for Buffalo, and so I think it's going to keep building their confidence. And they've got a pretty healthy control over your AFC East, where it looks like
they're 4 games up.
Yeah.
So
yeah. 4 games
so
up, that says pretty good.
I'm also going to go with Buffalo. I just feel like they're going to be the better team in this matchup. I like how they match up against the Colts. I think, I think a lot of teams are going to match up well against this Colts defense, but they're definitely going to get after Joe Flacco, and I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on him to make those throws. Kind of what the Vikings did, and he wasn't able to do it. So, also, I do think the Colts could be a sneaky seller at the trade deadline. Specifically, that wide receiver room, they have 4 guys. Alec Pierce is he's in the middle of his 3rd year. He's going into a contract year with his 4th year. I think they just extended Michael Pittman. They just drafted A.D. Mitchell at 52, I believe. And they have Josh Downs, who's been a really good weapon for them. That's already 3 guys. I just feel like Alec Pierce, while he is like their leading receiver right now, I think that that would be a decent move for them to potentially recoup some draft value there and make a move to include some of their other weapons a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing going into the trade deadline. But all in all, let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. We are both taking the Buffalo Bills. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the Buffalo Bills? Will it be the Indianapolis Colts? And that we'll see you guys next time.